Hi guys, SW Miron here. I hope you're having a good day. This is episode 28 of Glass Skulls Mental Health Podcast. If you are watching, I am so grateful that you're here. I am so motivated to continue to make videos every single week, so long as there is at least one viewer. It would be awesome if you are someone that watches, maybe you could share about this podcast to a friend, because ultimately there's 38 subscribers, which is awesome, and I'm so grateful that you come and you watch, and that's great. But if we get to 50, then I can shift this whole platform to being a live podcast on YouTube instead of doing it where I kind of just have to make a video and drop it off. So anyway, I am sitting outside, yes, with long sleeves and pants on because I'm always cold, but it's like really humid and warm today, but it's not very sunny. And the warm feeling, like when I sit here and close my eyes and just feel it on my skin, is like so relaxing. I've come off of having a really not relaxing week. I had some symptoms of my mental illnesses resurface that were ones that weren't troublesome anymore, or they hadn't been, at least for a very long time. And I engaged in some really negative coping. So yeah, I'm not super proud of anything I'm about to say, but this is the truth. And for anybody who fights this fight and understands in the way that I can understand, right? Because you go through it too, I go through it, so it's just different than people who have understanding about it. But unless you've walked in these shoes, I wouldn't appreciate being judged, and I wouldn't judge you. So this week I was a little bit more anxious than usual. And I noticed that kind of right around when my parents went out of town. I work with my family, and my parents, they're a big part of how all of our company operates. And I don't know, I'm just learning so much from my mom and stuff because I'm kind of training to be her someday. But, I'm, if anyone's followed these videos before, I might have shared that I've always had this perfectionistic quality, since I was in second grade. I got a 99 on a quiz in second grade instead of 100, and I tantrumed for 3 hours as an 8-year-old. I was not able to be consoled no matter what they tried, no matter who they called, even when my mom came. So yeah, my emotional regulation kind of fell off this week. I went to work, and my first day, kind of on my own, I guess. I don't know, I guess I just felt like there were so many things happening at the same time, and in my mind, every single email or call that is received, or voicemail that's received, it needs to immediately be responded back to. And the reality is, nobody is yelling at me or saying to me, you need to reply to that, those 12 emails that just came in under 5 minutes. No one is giving me that, expectation or anything. It's I give it to myself. Trust me, I wish I could not, but I just do. And I think part of it is wanting to prove to my family I can do a really good job at the job they need me to do. And part of it is I want to show myself that I can still push through when symptoms of mental illness get extra difficult to deal with. So some of the things that were happening was I was getting so anxious that if my baseline is a 3 to 4 on the 1 to 10 scale of anxiety, I was in the 8 to 9 consistently every day since they left. And that results in me getting so nauseous I can't eat, or I'll eat but then I'll throw up because I'm so nauseous, because the way my body feels, it's I'm physically like someone's like shaking my insides. I don't know how to make you understand, but it's very, very difficult. And like I keep losing more and more weight, and it sucks because I already, like, like all of us, like I already have things about my body that I don't like, and I certainly don't like getting thinner and thinner and thinner. But without something like marijuana, I can't physically muster up the feeling of hunger when I'm that anxious. So I, was taking like higher PRN dosages, but then there started to be anxiety attacks and panic attacks, and they were like multiple times a day. And then finally, like day 3 of this, I really kind of lost it. I went back to, and mind you, what I'm about to say only happens if you are like in real desperation. Okay? Like, this isn't like one of the things that immediately pops into my brain when I think about a way to cope with something that's difficult or overwhelming. So I started to engage in some self-destructive coping mechanisms. And there's lots of ways that you could be self-destructive, right? Like, one way I think of immediately is like when someone relapses, because maybe for whatever reason, you know, they made it as far as they could until they just broke, and they just went right back to the bad thing, the bad habit, the bad whatever, because not because it's the easy way out, but like it's just not that simple to just get clean and from day one never ever relapse. I don't know how I've been so fortunate, truly, because I'll be coming up on 12 years clean in September. But like, most people relapse, and it's a part of the journey of recovery. It's not like an unusual thing. It's not something to be looked down upon. Okay, but if I had any point relapsed and decided to be like, you know what, I'm just like, screw it, screw everything, like throw my hands up, give up, lose hope, fail to do any of the things that I know damn well I know how to do, but I just was so fucked up in my head that I couldn't see any of those options. So yeah, I understand 100% why people get to a breaking point and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to go back and get a little bit more cocaine. And they think, I'm just going to do it one more time and that'll be it. And then you begin again. And then however long it goes, if you relapse again, guess what? It's part of the journey. You just have to be able to pick yourself back up. It gets harder to pick yourself back up after each relapse. The self-destructive behavior that I engaged in this week that really kind of freaked myself out was some cutting. So cutting is something that I've done kind of on and off when I was like 19 or 20 onward. I kind of learned when I was like 18 or 19 that like I didn't understand why I was doing it. I just knew it felt good to do it. And then like whatever I was already so upset about or worked up about just seemed to like evaporate after. Like, I could take the pain that was physically in here and say, you know what? I'm at my wit's end. I cannot possibly like be trapped in this for one more second. I need like an emergency out. So my brain was like, you need to cut. You're going to be able to physically take all this pain. You're going to be able to put it right on your body. And then you'll feel physical pain that will burn and sting and bleeds. And that distracts you enough from whatever was overwhelming you. I'm sorry if like this is the first time you're ever hearing about this and you're like totally shocked or disturbed to know that this is something that many people in this world engage in. And like sadly, I did it the one day and like it wasn't like that bad, you know, it was just like a little bit. And then I did it like the next day and it was worse. And then a third day, and then it was like it had gone too far. Like I will never show it to you. I will never talk about details of, you know, things that I use, and I won't talk about that stuff, okay? But like I just hope that people understand that, like, when you like relapse with cutting, like it's just another one of those times where you pretty much just got to your wit's end and you threw your hands up and you gave up. And I kind of gave up this week. Not gonna lie. I tried my hardest not to. I ended up calling an emergency call to my psychiatry office, and unfortunately my provider's out of town for a couple weeks, so they didn't have anybody that could like see me, so they were recommending that I go like right to Four Winds because they thought it was true like a med management problem. Like they thought I needed more of a certain medication and less of something else, but like none of those people are my providers, so they didn't feel comfortable, especially because one of the substances is a controlled substance. So there's a lot of gray area around that. But gratefully, like, you know, they've called me. I will say that practice has called me 3 times since I called in like my kind of SOS. Like I wasn't to the point that I needed to go to a hospital. I knew that. And that's because I didn't have a plan for suicide. I wasn't making a plan for suicide, and I wasn't planning on hurting anybody else. Those are the 3 golden questions. Okay, if you're not doing any of those things, you can probably still have some time to either tweak some medicine, to try some new strategies, to go be around people that make you feel loved and supported unconditionally, that are not going to make you feel guilty because you relapsed and you cut yourself again. Like, shame on anyone that makes people feel bad for things like that. Because that's, first of all, just as much of an addiction as any addiction to drugs. They're both really negative forms of coping. You know, it's not solving any problems, it's actually creating more problems. But yet somehow, some way, your brain registers it as like a and with the drugs, it's just like putting things off until eventually I would just get so bad I would just totally, you know, go into crisis and need to go to the hospital. But with like the cutting, it hasn't been nearly as bad of like something I, you know, needed to fight to stop. But the thing that freaks me out about it is I hadn't done it in like a few years. I'm gonna be 36 in a couple of weeks. And like 6 months ago, I did have like a relapse where I'd had one day that I engaged in cutting. And I beat myself up so bad for it. I felt absolutely terrible. And I was like, I'm not going to do this again. And like, of course, like, I know, I'm sitting here telling it to you. So I know that that's not the end of the world. That is unfortunately part of this process for me. And like, you've stopped before, you can stop again. And I continue to hold on to that hope. But I had things like To Write Love on Her Arms. That organization is everything. If you struggle with mental illness, if you struggle with depression or suicide, self-injury, any of those things, like, they are a great place for you to check out. To Write Love on Her Arms. I'm going to say that the last time that I engaged in the cutting was 2 days ago. And I've successfully made it to like the second day now of like not doing it again. And what's motivating for me is I start counting all over again. Like, I don't mean to, I don't set a countdown or count up in my phone. I just know, because the strategy of counting the days always helped me when it was time for me to like get serious and get clean from cocaine and Molly. So like, if I could do that, and I've done that for just about 12 years come September, without a relapse, I have to be strong enough to be able to kick this one too. I'm just not very proud of the fact that it happened, and I am feeling that like shame, that the stigmas give us. But I know what I would say to you if you were the one saying this to me. Like, I know I would be saying that, like, you just have to be willing to begin again and try again. And, like, as long as you're able to continue to begin again, there's really an infinite amount of times that you have that opportunity, you know? All right, I want to end with some lyrics. I've been really on my emo stuff lately, so but this is My Chemical Romance, and it's a song called Famous Last Words. It says, "'Cause I see you lying next to me with words I thought I'd never speak, awake and unafraid, asleep or dead. I am not afraid to keep on living. I am not afraid to walk this world alone. Honey, if you stay, I'll be forgiven. Nothing you can say can stop me going home." Well, guys, thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you next time. If you have any questions, comments, anything at all, please reach out. I am not a shy person, so I would totally talk to any human that reached out to me. All right, I will see you next time. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And just know, no matter what comes along and like tries to just derail your whole like life, it feels like, even if the thing does derail it, you're gonna be able to pick yourself up and you're gonna have hope and you're gonna begin again. Why? Because you have to. So the more you practice that, just like every day, the better off you'll be if you find yourself in that situation. All right, guys, see you next time. Bye.